This is the Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to the Philanthropy Show. I am your host, Luann Zaraga-Walters, and it is such a pleasure for us on the show to be able to talk with those community leaders who are truly making an impact. And I became aware of a person just recently, although she's been doing incredible work for the past 20 years in the Tampa Bay area, and that is Elizabeth Fowler, who is joining us today. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
But just a little bit about Elizabeth. So, Elizabeth, you are the director of the Triad Foundation, which is your grandfather's foundation, originating set up.
Correct.
You're a philanthropist in your own right, a donor to many organizations. You support a lot of youth agencies throughout the Tampa Bay area. You've served on the boards and still serve on the boards of several organizations. And you are a model of what we're seeing more and more of the engaged philanthropist. And I really wanted to have you on the show to speak to that, what that looks like, how we can work in the nonprofit community to really harness the dedication and the enthusiasm and the energy that you're sharing. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your background. So let's find out a little bit about Elizabeth. How did you get involved in philanthropy?
Well, kind of unexpectedly, actually. You know, back when I was in high school, we didn't have community service, so it wasn't something that I really knew much about. I was working at a bank as a teller and worked all through my high school and college, but community service really wasn't a piece of what I did. So I went to school at University of North Carolina after growing up in Ithaca, New York, and went to school there. When I graduated, came straight here, sight unseen, to work for NCNB, which later became Nations Bank, which later became Bank of America. So it was a 12-year career in corporate banking, and really thought that was going to be the career for the rest of my life. When my grandfather passed away unexpectedly in 1993, his estate settled by establishing a private foundation, family foundation. At the time it was called Park Foundation, but it's now called Triad just because we've broken it into two pieces. But back then we established it. There were no particular goals or missions, so we really as a family had to sit at the table and start from scratch, figure out what we were going to do, what he would have wanted to do. And that was my first foray into philanthropy. The only thing I had done before that was I'd served on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters and had chaired that board as part of my banker duties. So I knew a little bit about one thing, but that's about all I knew at the time.
Wow. Wow. And now here you have this family foundation. Did you have any idea what your grandfather was interested in?
We did. We knew that he cared about colleges, and he had served on the board of University of North Carolina State, Cornell University, and Ithaca College, so we knew he cared a lot about higher education. He cared about opportunity and merit-based scholarships. He was a poor farmer's boy when he grew up, and he was able to go to college and make a career and become very successful, so he believed in opportunity for American citizens. And so we knew that if we did merit-based scholarships, that would appeal, as would types of things that were in the interest of giving opportunities to children and to adults so that they could maximize their full potential.
And I love that you said, I think it's interesting that you said from your experience with Bank of America, you sat on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters, but you really didn't know anything about philanthropy other than that, because just last year, so Elizabeth won two rather large awards in the Tampa Bay area, USF, the University of South Florida's Women in Leadership and Philanthropy Community Leadership Award, as well as the Association of Fundraising Professionals Suncoast Chapter Philanthropist of the Year. So those are not little awards for a community, and I think it's interesting. It's a testament to how much you've really put into the nonprofit sector. What was that transition then? How did you go from just serving on a board as a corporate representative to becoming so engaged in the community?
Well, when I started the job in 1995, I left the bank to do this job.
And you're now director?
I am a director.
A director.
There are 6 of us directors, but I'm one of them. We're all family members and spouses. But I started as treasurer, so I was managing the investments of the foundation and kind of learned that from scratch, but also started making grants. And we were able to make grants as a group, but also able to divide up based on where we lived and to look at our communities and figure out what kind of grants we wanted to make. So I've always been interested in things that affect youth and opportunity and education, and that's where I started to look. So really just starting from scratch, asking questions, learning what nonprofits were doing well and what weren't, and affiliating with Chef Crowder, who has been, and Maggie Osborne,
Foundation,
who were my biggest mentors for many, many years.
Maggie now the director of the Connecticut Council,
exactly,
which
yes.
is similar to the Florida Philanthropic Network, which we had Dave Beamsdorfer on a show past couple of shows.
Yes, she was a fantastic resource. So I just partnerships, and I got on some boards. I was on the St. Mary's Episcopal Day School board, and just started joining some others, and we established Frameworks in 2002, which was actually under the YMCA. My husband was on the YMCA board. We just started joining boards, attending things, breakfast, lunches, trying to find out as much as we could, and then site visits and really getting to know the people. And once you do that, you just get sucked in because you realize there are a lot of great people doing interesting work, and the more engaged you are, the more exciting it becomes.
I love that you were a founder of Frameworks as well, and I really want to talk more about that for a second if we can step aside. What did you see as the need in, and talk about it first, it began as the Affiliate Project.
Correct.
Now
Yes.
it's called Frameworks, but tell us what that is and why there was a need for this organization.
Back in 2002, Liz Kennedy actually went up to Pennsylvania, and she looked at a program that was called the Affiliate Project to address relational aggression in girls, which is
relational
aggression, which is how girls bully. It's the under-the-table stuff girls do, turning a shoulder, notes, now Facebook, text, just things that girls do when they're elementary, middle school that are just particularly cruel, but it's how they bully. They don't just punch somebody. And so that was an issue that I knew it was something that nobody was really addressing, and so when Liz approached me with partnering under the Y to try to get something going, then I jumped at the chance. So we dealt with that for a while under the Y, and then we spun out, and I say we because I've been on the board ever since. It's like Hotel California. I checked in, I can never leave.
And you probably don't want to.
No, I just care about this issue so much, but we spun out, and then we realized it wasn't just girls, it was boys. Bullying was everywhere. And as we went through the years and served the youth population and did the research and had a couple of executive directors that focused on different pieces, we realized that bullying's just a symptom, that the root cause of bullying, abusive behavior or drug abuse or alcohol abuse or cutting, self-injury, all of those not good behaviors that kids do is just because their frontal lobe is not developed. And all of the things that come at an elementary school child or a middle school child come through the back of the brain, which is your reactive part. And it takes a long time to learn how to get things from that part to the front, where your judgment works, because the judgment's developing in children. So if you don't have the tools or the guidance or somebody teaching you.
That's interesting. So this is taking a neurological look as
Yes.
opposed to sociological look.
Yes.
And so it's not necessarily just that, well, there's peer pressure to behave a certain way, but you're saying that it's also a judgment factor.
It's just not developed in kids. And so if you give kids the tools, for example, it's all about helping kids manage their emotions so their emotions don't manage them. Someone makes you mad, kids react. If you have 6 seconds, and that's all you need for an elementary school to think and get to the front on what's a better reaction, then it's amazing what kids can do. And so what
I think that would be great training for adults
but
too.
Everybody, I mean, every time we do trainings for teachers and adults, the teachers get as much out of it as do parents that we're able to train. But by teaching kids to be aware of themselves and their strengths and weaknesses, to manage their own emotions, and then develop empathy, because empathy is not a natural thing for elementary, middle school children. It has to be learned, and you have to do it through role modeling or visualizing so that you understand what someone else feels like. If you do that, you're less likely to bully.
So you're establishing the framework
Exactly.
for behavioral.
That's what the name came from.
The right choice.
Yes,
there
are those 5 research-based skills that we teach to youth and teachers to help kids manage their life more productively so that they can focus on learning, because that's what matters, is can they learn in school? Well, not if you've got all this stuff, emotional stuff going on. So it's just an issue that I think nobody else was addressing. A lot of organizations do character development, which is excellent. You know, Girl Scouts, YMCA, those are all great things, but emotional intelligence is foundation for all of that. And if kids can manage their emotions, they can learn the character building, they can learn the academic skills, they can be great teammates and players on a sports team. So it's just a foundational need that I saw wasn't being addressed, and that's why I'm still so committed about it.
You also have a passion for academy prep Yes. And as well as the Big Brothers Big Sisters. And we have to take a quick break. But when we come back, I want to talk about that and what you look for. You just mentioned with building the framework, more of giving them something that is a long-term tool that they can really rely on for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk some more about that. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with the Philanthropy Show.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
The Philanthropy Show is on demand every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at both thephilanthropyshow.com and YouTube/watch MVVP TV.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. We're talking today with Elizabeth Fowler, who is an amazing, engaged philanthropist in Tampa Bay. We were just talking about frameworks and looking at the science behind why children react the way they do, which is this neurological process. What I want to know too is, because of your passion for Academy Prep, for Big Brothers Big Sisters with youth, what are you looking for in an organization? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're looking for a long-term change or a long-term benefit that will have an impact in the community.
Yes.
With those.
Well, for example, Academy Prep, it's a quality versus quantity. I mean, you want to be able to reach as many kids as you can, but if you don't reach them deeply, you don't make a difference. And what's really incredible about Academy Prep with their 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, is that it is deep, and you are changing these kids' lives. So there's 120 kids there from age 5th grade through 8th grade. And you're changing them from every facet of their life to understand the opportunities they have. And what you learn is they come in and they're maybe 2 grade levels behind, but with 4 years of nurturing, they graduate 1 or 2 grade levels ahead, and now have opportunities to do the same things everyone else can do, even though their background might suggest that they can't. And that's what is so inspiring to me, is that every child has opportunity. And I believe in the right for every child to have opportunity for a good life. And the only way you get that is through a good education. So looking at programs where you go deep, even with the frameworks, you have to hit kids 10 to 12 times with the message before they get it. As adults, we have to see something 3 or 4 times before we get it. So I think it's those programs that show results, that go deep, that are consistent, that really change lives, because then you're changing all the generations that come behind them.
And you're giving them the tools to make better decisions and also to empower them. I think that's one of the things that stands out for us, for Sharon and myself with Academy Prep too, is this pledge that they have. The greatest, the greatest, the greatest. You know, standing in this room are the greatest students this school has ever known. I mean, they're really trying to uplift them and say, you are more than your grade, and you can do more and be more, and that's a fascinating look too.
Yes, those teachers believe every child can do everything, and to make it, and this has been a theme of the philanthropy that I've done, is that to develop the whole child, you need other pieces. So you need the performing arts. You need them to get on stage and feel good about telling their story, like Power Stories does for children. You need them to learn how to be a good teammate, how to be coachable, how to be somebody that can lose graciously. And that's what we do through Positive Coaching Alliance, which my husband and I just brought to Tampa a year ago, and partnering with the Lightning and the Rays to bring that here. That's emotional intelligence for athletes. And also First Tee, which is a program under the Y, which is golf, learning the lessons of golf, which has a lot of etiquette and rules, but in those are life lessons. The whole child can be developed when you give them the academics, you give them the support that's extracurricular, you give them the emotional skills. Now you have a child who's going to be very successful in life.
You're giving me goosebumps just listening to you talk, because you're a thinker. You're interested in what the results are. You're interested in the development of that full child in every aspect. What does philanthropy mean to you? When we talk about engaged philanthropy, what is that?
You know, philanthropy means a lot to a lot of people. So some people can only touch it on the surface. Maybe it's a donation or participate in a run, and that's great because we need all of that. For some people, it's attending dinners, or maybe it's sponsoring something, and that's important too. But for me, I think just to be on a board or to commit to something you care about and volunteer, that's what philanthropy means to me, because until you do those things, you'll never enjoy it as much as you possibly can. It feels great to give. It feels better to give money, time, talent, whatever you have for something you care about, and then to see it work. It's just, to me, one of the most fulfilling things in life. And there was a book written by Arthur Brooks, and one of his formulas is, what's the formula for happiness? And he says that 48% of your happiness is genetic, 40% is determined by big events, weddings, births, deaths, getting into college, whatever those might be, and 12% you can control. And 12% is faith, family, community, work. Work is really important, to have a job that you love and you care about. It makes all the other things work. Work, of course, faith is important, and community and all of that, but community means, what do you do that makes the world different because you exist? What do you do out there that makes you feel valuable as a part of the community? And that's just part of that 12% of happiness you can control. So the quality in which you put into it is the quality you're going to get out, and that's, to me, what philanthropy really is.
And you have a very high quality of life by giving so much in that.
Yes.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I've never...
That's a Barbara Walters question.
Never thought of it as a legacy. I just do it. I just do it because it's fun, and because I just get to see kids. And there's just a whole world of people that do this 501c3 stuff that many people just don't know about.
10.7 million, according to a 2012 Johns Hopkins study.
Yes.
10.7 million. And those are just staff, not including the board members, the donors, everybody who's invested.
Yes, I mean, some of the most creative, interesting, intelligent people I've ever met, I've met on boards. I never would have come across them if it hadn't been for this common interest. So just the people I meet, and I just do it. I just can't help it. I keep getting sucked into more and more, but I just enjoy it, and there's really no legacy I'm trying to achieve other than just do what I can in the time I've got.
Well, and thank you for the commitment that you have. I have a kind of an off-ball question, but I'm thinking about it because we've done a show recently that on generations and on getting the youth involved. And since you are so passionate about that, youth on boards, how do we get more youth into and involved with our nonprofit boards?
It's a great question. And with our own foundation, Triad Foundation, we actually there are 7 in the next generation. So they are actually, 3 of them are on our board as junior board members, so they don't vote, but they do come to meetings. All of the grandchildren get grant allocations that they can go do a site visit and pick a grant. They are in the group discussion, so they learn how to work together. All of this is to train them so that when they are 25 and older, they can participate if they want to in something as valuable as we've all found it to be. I think if you're a good board, that you should bring on some youth. It could be graduates of your program. It could be college students who'd want to learn about a specific issue, because you will get ideas from kids that you won't get from adults.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of times these boards are a lot of people over 40 sitting there doing really great things, but sometimes you need the perspective of the 22-year-old to really serve the kids you're trying to serve. So I just think, there's no harm in bringing on a couple of youth on every board for that extra perspective that it provides.
I heard somebody, I was trying to think of, when you were just saying that, who said it, and I just can't remember who, it was recent, but somebody had said about having youth on boards that the younger you are when you're exposed to philanthropy, the less it becomes an obligation, the more it becomes a habit, just a part of being.
Yes.
And I really like that philosophy, because it can be as simple as, I'm going to the grocery store and they have a BOGO on a can of peas. So I know I need a can of peas. I'm going to buy one and I'm going to give the other one to a food shelter or something.
Right.
A food bank.
Right.
But that's fascinating, because when you can incorporate youth and the next generations into what we're doing and what we've learned, and everything that you think about that, everything that you've learned. Like you said at the beginning of the interview, 20 years ago you'd sat on a board as a corporate representative but didn't know what you know now.
Right.
And what if you had that too? It's amazing, because I think that your grandfather, in setting up this family foundation, has given your family an incredible opportunity.
Oh, no doubt.
For that community investment.
And it means different things to each of us depending on what our interest levels. But when you bring that up about Teens in Action is a program of frameworks, and the reason we set up Teens in Action is because all the teenagers in our community must have 100 hours of community service if they want to have a Bright Future scholarship at a Florida school. Well, you can have 100 hours of trying to do 2 hours of pick up trash here and 2 hours over here, but do you want something meaningful for life? Teens in Action takes the kids, brings them in for a class for 1 year. They are trained in the social emotional skills because that's incredibly important to community service. But then they are assigned a project for the year, and every Monday they go to Cornerstone Kids, or they go to Metropolitan Ministries. But they have a project that they're responsible for, and they graduate at the end of the year with 100, 120 hours. But they have learned deeply with one organization that after they graduate they can continue on with. And that's our hope, is that we introduce kids to things in the community and then they stay connected, because really we are raising a generation of philanthropists, so making the most of it and not just filling with hours, but meaningful hours is really important.
I love that. What do you see as a need that we really need to address, that just comes top of mind?
Yeah, you know, there big strides have been made, and there's two needs I see. One is that nonprofits, you know, need to learn how to manage nonprofits better. We've come a long way. 20 years ago, Nonprofit Leadership Center didn't exist, now it does. So whatever tools you need, fundraising, managing people, staff, resources, human resources, it's all there now. So the better a nonprofit operates, the more credibility it's going to have. It's going to be easier to fundraise, serve its population, and endure. Because as Liz Kennedy used to say, every year you start as a nonprofit pushing that boulder back uphill and raising money again, and it's exhausting.
It'd be so great to get people off of that. I keep saying gopher wheel. It's a hamster wheel. Yeah, I've been told several times, don't call it a gopher wheel.
Yeah.
But that's true, and I was a development person as well.
Yes.
That is a big, and it's part of the reason for this show, because we want to be able to help nonprofits, their boards and their donors learn things that they don't necessarily have access to.
Yeah, I mean, and I wish you could get off that hamster wheel, but nobody ever comes to a nonprofit and says, here's $5 million, enjoy your next 10 years. It just doesn't happen, so it's part of the deal. The other need is, I think it's really hard for people to know what other people are doing. When you find out, you find good ideas, you can partner, you can make more happen. Now we have the Funders Forum under the Florida Philanthropic Network, so funders get together and talk about ideas and things in the community. It's still hard because you have United Way, Community Foundation, corporations, foundations, individuals, and we really don't know what everybody's doing. People just gravitate to their passions. I read the paper all the time trying to figure out what's new, what's different, who's doing what. But just anything we can do to bring funders together just to share ideas. I think you always get better outcomes when you have the wisdom of crowds. And it's just difficult to get everyone. You can't really report into one place on what you do.
I like that you brought that up too, because I've seen that need, and I think in the business community you've got CNBC, MSNBC, a variety of television programs, or Business Week, or different Inc., Entrepreneur, whatever magazines talking about the business world, or Wall Street or whatnot, and we don't have a lot of options in the nonprofit sector. Right. We do have the Chronicle of Philanthropy in the Nonprofit Times, maybe some smaller regional areas, but again, now we have the Philanthropy Show, yay. But we do, I would love to see, with a sector that is the third largest sector in the United States, behind manufacturing and retail trade. We should have some more. Wow. Yeah. It's already time for break.
Okay.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for Truth or Care.
And now a word from our studio sponsor.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay, where we provide nonprofit professionals with the skills and tools that they need to run their businesses more efficiently and effectively. One of the programs I'd like to talk to you about today is our certificate program for volunteer management. This multi-day intensive program will teach you not only how to recruit, train, and retain the best volunteers to help you meet your mission, but also how to evaluate, monitor, and report on those volunteer activities. We hope you'll join us for the next Volunteer Management Certificate Program in the spring of 2015 so that we can help you refresh your professional and personal development skills.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. Hard to believe that we are now already at the conclusion of the show with our very special guest, Elizabeth Fowler. Thank you for lending your energy, your enthusiasm, your intelligence to this nonprofit community.
You're welcome.
And doing so much that you are. And so we were talking earlier in our closing segment is Truth or Care. And you're pretty much a heart-based person as it is, but Truth or Care is based on your heart's definition. What is an example, a story, a meaning of what philanthropy means to you?
I think it had to do with having children of my own. And when this foundation was established, that was about the time I'd had my third child. So as I developed, what was I going to do in this community, I also was watching them navigate school and preschool and elementary school and middle school, and just watching kids and how tough it is just to navigate some of the things that come at you. The amount of academic information is getting increasingly more and more. The technology is instant and rapid, and even little kids playing with iPads. It's just amazing how much is coming at them all the time. There becomes less and less time for them to think and think about relationships and how to treat other people and what it means to be an involved and engaged student. There's just so many facets that are challenging for kids, and not to mention the dogpiling that happens because you have the alpha males and the females who want to be on top. It's a lot of noise going on, and when you're really trying to make for successful children and adults, there's a lot to manage. So I think it's just watching that. And then when you look at, kids that maybe struggle with some of the basic things they need in some of the neighborhoods where the schools are huge, they're just floundering out there by themselves, and my heart goes out to them. So I think anything we can do for any child, no matter what, everyone has needs, and someone from the wealthiest community can have the same emotional needs as someone from the poorest community. So wherever we can find the need and fill it, that's what I care about the most.
That's really nice, and that is community. That is the love of humanity. And your work with children is also work with the adults, because they're growing into that.
Yes.
And then they're going to pass on those same values.
Right.
So you're not just affecting a child, you're affecting generations to come.
That's my hope.
Wow. Thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
on the show. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Really loved having you here.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
That's going to wrap up our show today. So this has been The Philanthropy Show. Join us again next Monday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, thephilanthropyshow.com. Have a great week.
Do you have an idea for The Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.